I know I've already done this game, and yeah, I know this game isn't actually that old. But anyway, we're taking a look again at Kingdom Hearts 1. This time in the PlayStation 4 1.5 plus 2.5 HD remix package. So how does Kingdom Hearts 1, after all these years and after all these re-releases, hold up in retrospect? Remember the good old days, the days of Kingdom Hearts 1, the days where the story of Kingdom Hearts wasn't convoluted as fuck yet. This game is just about three teenagers, Sora, Riku and Kairi, who are living on the Destiny Islands, and they really desperately want to get off these islands. They want to go out and explore other worlds, and their best plan of doing so is to build a raft out of wood. While they already have boats. Because reasons. While they're working on their weird little project, over in an actual other world called Disney Castle, the king there, King Mickey, because Disney's king is Mickey obviously, has gone missing. He has actually left to go fight an incoming threat known as the Heartless. And he's left a little message for the Mage Donald and the Knight Goofy. I swear, I wish I were making that up, but I'm not. That's actually how the game is. They need to go find the key and help him destroy the Heartless. Back at Destiny Island, you actually get to play a little bit and experience the gameplay of the game. And it's a JRPG in the sense that, yeah, you do level up and stats are really important. Getting higher levels means more HP, more damage, more defense, more easier game generally. So, first things first, if you're ever stuck on anything in the entire game, make sure your level is high enough. Aside from that, there's also equipment and stuff to boost some stats, and some equipment is better for magic, some better for defense, some better for strength, some is good for HP, some... You get the point. Other than most JRPGs though, this is not a turn-based game, this is actually a hack-and-slash action-based combat system. Which means, yes, you heard hack and slash, so the X button for attacking is your best friend. Just mashing that will get you through about 90% of the game, which, yes, that makes it very easy. That being said though, if you're playing on proud mode, more difficult mode of the game, just pressing X won't be enough, because you'll die a lot. Like, actually a lot if you do that on proud mode. So on proud mode you actually gotta use some other abilities as well. For a 3D hack-and-slash action-based combat system, I know that's a mouthful, but that's the best way to explain what this is. A good camera system is very important, and there's two main ways to distinguish camera systems in this game. It's what I call manual and, well, lock-on. Manual is you control the camera with your right analog stick, and that works fairly well. It's not amazing, but it gets the job done. And then there's lock-on, which is what it sounds like. If you press R1, you lock onto an enemy in combat, and the camera will follow the enemy around, meaning that it's on screen pretty much at all times. And if you just walk forward, you're walking towards the enemy, which in a three-dimensional space, having that little bit of help navigating towards an enemy really does help quite a lot. And there's also little things like, if you press attack while locked onto an enemy, or use a magic spell while locked onto an enemy, it actually turns Sora towards the enemy, rather than just doing it some random direction. Altogether, I would say the lock-on camera system's actually downright near perfect. It works very well. And if you're just using the analog stick while like walking around in the world or doing some mandatory platforming sections, which, yes, there's platforming sections, why would you do that, Square? It does the job. It's not perfect, it's not fun to use, but it doesn't harm that much either. So going around the island, you mash X button quite a bit against your friends to beat them up, and you go on some fetch quests. Yes, we're not even an hour into the game and we're doing fetch quests. Just really is an RPG, isn't it? And then we run into this weird hooded figure who shows up talking about darkness. We just kind of like ignore him and get on with our day. Turns out we shouldn't have done that, because later that night we look out our window, because apparently we have a home and apparently we have a mom.
Sora! Dinner's ready! Come Come on down. Sora?
Huh. Go figure. And there's a dark ball of purple darkness floating above the island. Huh. That can't be good. Going to the island, we see Kairi, which don't know what's up with her, but she doesn't look okay. And we see Riku, which gets swallowed by the darkness. Then we too get swallowed by the darkness and we wake up in Traverse Town. We're actually in another world. Here we actually get to meet a pretty decent cast of Final Fantasy characters, like Yuffie and Squall. I mean Leon, yeah, he's called Leon. He's always been called Leon, of course. And Donald and Goofy are also here, but we don't get to meet him quite yet. But they do meet Aerith with TH, not with an S, but TH, because apparently Kingdom Hearts doesn't like using actual Final Fantasy names. Walking around a bit in Traverse Town, you actually encounter quite a bit of Heartless, which are the threat King Mickey has left to go fight. And as it turns out, your new weapon, the Keyblade, yes, it's a giant key-shaped sword, cause why not, is fairly effective at killing those things. So that's good for you, because otherwise you'd be fucked right now. This all is explained to you by Leon and Yuffie. Well, in the room next to you, Donald and Goofy, which I remind you are looking for this key, are being talked up by Aerith about Ansem, a researcher which was researching the heart and the Heartless. Naturally, Sora runs into Donald and Goofy after not too long, and they team up to go find Riku and Kairi, but also the king, and free all the worlds of the Heartless and the Darkness. So it's now original characters, it's a Final Fantasy game, and it's a Disney game. How did this even end up happening? This is where the game starts getting more interesting, because at this point there's a lot of things being thrown in your face at once. For instance, you can now do certain trinities, which you can do when you've got Donald and Goofy with you. And they can give you anything from like money to items, new equipment, anything they can give you. They're kind of like little fun collectibles you can go around the world to find. Around this time you also get one of your first abilities, probably. As a kid, I always thought Scan was the biggest deal out of them all, because it shows you the enemy HP, and while Scan is still something you do want to have equipped, it's nowhere near as important as Dodge Roll, which you get from Donald and Goofy when you encounter them after the first fight. It's much better, and without Dodge Roll you're fucked, so prioritize Dodge Roll over everything. Same with Sliding Dash. It might not seem that important, but if you're just a little too far away from an enemy and you've got Sliding Dash as an ability equipped, you'll slide towards the enemy and then can continue into a combo. You want that equipped at all times. Believe me, you do. And then Scan also is rather important, because you need to see how dead the enemy is. But you want to survive anyway, and you want that thing dead anyway, so just keep pressing X until it's dead. It doesn't really matter how much HP it has left, does it? So, after encountering Donald and Goofy, you set out to go to other worlds, and Traverse Town, being a Kingdom Hearts original world, is one of the only ones in the game. From here on out, there's a lot of Disney-based worlds. Most of these worlds follow the story of the film they're based on fairly loosely. In the first couple of worlds there is some character development for Sora, Donald and Goofy, which loosely ties into the films the worlds are based on, but not too much, to be honest. And there's next to no plot progression whatsoever. In this first batch of worlds you also enter Olympus Coliseum, which will be coming back to quite often, because throughout the game there is tournaments being held there, which they're pretty fun, and you can actually get pretty good rewards for them as well. So if you get a pop-up saying, hey, there's a tournament being held at the Coliseum, you probably should go there. It does reward you with new Keyblades, new equipment and new everything, even new magic, I do believe. Talking about new Keyblades, yeah, you're not going to be stuck with one weapon for the entirety of the game. Have you ever played a JRPG? There's a bunch of different weapons. But this being an action hack-and-slash based game, weapons actually make a big difference. Not only in stats, but also in things like reach. A longer Keyblade actually has a longer reach, meaning that it'll be easier to hit enemies from just a little bit farther away. And you might think that's a minor thing, and to some extent it is, but it is something that you can definitely feel while playing the game. If you switch from a really long Keyblade to a really short Keyblade, you'll probably feel the fact that you're missing quite often getting used to the new reach of your Keyblade. And of course, like every single JRPG in existence, some Keyblades will be more magic focused, some more melee focused. Again, there's longer ones, there's shorter ones, so there's gotta be one to suit your playstyle. All these worlds though are separated and you need to get from one world to the other. And to do this, there's the gummy ship. The most slow and boring, annoying, tedious part of the game. Yeah, it's definitely the worst part of this game. During the early part of the game, I was hungry while recording the footage. So I actually made myself lunch and ate it during the gummy ship mission, because it requires no input whatsoever. Later on it's a little bit more difficult, but you can actually build your own gummy ships based on either blueprints or build one from scratch. I built one from scratch and look at this monstrosity. It's ugly, but it kills very, very well. It's very easy to build a very powerful gummy ship and get very overpowered. So that doesn't make it much more fun, because now it's slow, tedious and easy. There's no suspense anymore, so I would actually advise you to just stay with the default gummy ship, because later on in the game it'll actually get a little difficult if you still use the default gummy ship. And at least that way you'll have some suspense. But I couldn't be bothered, so I made this. Sue me. Going through all these Disney worlds, you have little to no luck finding Riku and Kairi, but going back to Traverse Town you actually run into Riku, which you then see is teaming up with the bad guys, which are all the Disney villains. That sucks. He's a bad guy now. He doesn't know it yet, but he's definitely turning into a bad guy. And that's everything that happens in Traverse Town really, so it's time for more Disney. But this time it's actually more interesting because there is some plot development and the whole Riku storyline gets continued through these Disney worlds. So the second batch of Disney worlds actually way more interesting. Except one. Because there's Atlantica. And fuck Atlantica. Swimming in Atlantica sucks. It's an underwater world where you get transformed into a mermaid or man, I guess. And Donald and Goofy are a turtle. And why? This is weird. The good news though is this world can be skipped. It is not mandatory whatsoever to complete the game. But it does give you an upgrade to your Thunder Spell, which you do really want. It gives you a Keyblade, which is pretty decent and you actually kind of want. But again, it's not mandatory for the story. You can move on past these worlds if you skip Atlantica. And I kind of would recommend it. Some good news though, there's also a place where you fight with Riku as an ally. Yeah, in Monstro there's one fight where Riku is your ally. And he really doesn't do shit, he just walks around, hits the enemy once and gets kicked back, and then he really doesn't do anything now that I think about it. Maybe he's trying to sabotage you. Remember how I said that the story of the worlds is very loosely based on the movies they're from? Well, in Halloween Town, which is based on The Nightmare Before Christmas, we first of all don't have anything related to Christmas Town, which, that's fine, that's not too big a deal. We just keep it at a Halloween part and there's really nothing going on regarding Christmas at all. And it's actually got nothing to do with the original film. And then you defeat Oogie Boogie, that's fine and all, and then he turns into his mansion. Let me repeat that, he turns into his mansion. And there's these dark, globby things all over the mansion or his body. Is it his body or is it the mansion? We don't really know. But you have to destroy those dark things in order to beat that. But it's a really weird boss fight. I don't know what they were smoking, thinking of this, but I kind of like it. Then finally we get to another Kingdom Hearts original world, Hollow Bastion. And this is where the plot returns full force. Because Riku steals your Keyblade. Fuck. That's the only thing we had against the Heartless. You might think, well, Donald and Goofy can kill Heartless. No, they're going with Riku. Because, remember, they are going after the key. And if the key changes owner, Donald and Goofy are just assholes and leave you. Thanks, guys. Now I could count on you. Luckily though, it doesn't take too long before Donald and Goofy realize what assholes they're being and return to your side. And shortly after you also get the Keyblade back. And then you actually get to fight Riku with his dark powers, which is a pretty decent boss fight. But later on, you actually get to fight him a second time. And it's the most awesome fight of the game in my opinion. At least story-wise. There's some really awesome optional bosses. But as far as story goes, the second Riku fight is the very best. During the second battle, Riku actually has a Keyblade of his own. And after the battle, Sora picks it up and stabs himself with it. Because as it turns out, Kairi's heart was resting within Sora, and that's why Kairi couldn't wake up. They found Kairi's body, just not a heart, because it's inside Sora. So he releases it. Kinda turns into a Heartless though. That's an issue. But luckily, Kairi Deus Ex Machinas him back into a human somehow. Even after all this time, I don't know why. Maybe Kingdom Hearts 3 will explain? Probably not. As it turns out, the darkness that was controlling Riku was from Ansem, the researcher we have heard from so much before. And Ansem is the bad guy, as it seems. He's been pulling the strings all along, so Sora goes after him to give him a good beating. At which point you fight the final boss fight, which has a shit ton of forms and takes you between like 25 to 30 minutes to complete. That's one final boss sequence, taking you roughly half an hour. It's a little extreme, don't you think? After you beat Ansem, you finally find Riku and King Mickey behind the door to darkness, and we can all live happily ever after, you would think. But no, King Mickey actually locks himself and Riku behind the door. And that leaves the story of this game with we have to find them again. Fuck! We've accomplished nothing in this game other than find Kairi, wake her up, and send her back home. It's everything we've accomplished. I spent 12 hours in this game. I've accomplished one thing. Honestly, this game is not as amazing as people often make it out to be. People are, I think, blinded by some kind of nostalgia goggles. I'm not saying this is a bad game whatsoever, but I'm saying this is definitely nowhere near close to being the best Kingdom Hearts game, or even being one of the best games of its era. There's way better games out there. The HD remaster on the PS4 actually looks pretty fucking gorgeous. The 3D models are very, very crisp and they look really good. Sometimes though, just as in the original game, we still have these 2D flat derp faces, and sometimes they even make close-ups of them. The lip syncing and the voice acting is kind of off. It doesn't really work too well always. That being said though, a lot of cutscenes are not actually with spoken dialogue. About half of them might be, maybe a little bit less, and everything else, also story related things I might add, are told to you through speech bubbles. And I don't like text to begin with. I'd rather have every single thing in the game told me by voice, but that's my personal preference. The moment you start mixing those two up though is where I start getting annoyed, because you did hire these voice actors, but you just couldn't be bothered to pay them enough to speak a couple of extra lines. I get it if you do speech bubbles for characters which you don't have voice actors for, but there is plenty, and I repeat, plenty of lines from people like Leon or Kairi, for instance, which are told through speech bubbles. Story-based things. Why? I don't like that. One other thing which is specific to the HD remaster on PS4, if you complete the entire game, you get an end credit scene for every single world you've been to, showing you how things ended up after you left there, which is a really nice touch, and that was already in the original game. And that's where my issue lies, because those end credit scenes have not been remastered in HD. Those are the original footage from the original PS2 version. And if you've played a game which is 1080p 60 frames per second for 12 hours, And then in the credit scenes, you see very pixelated, like 480p footage. Even though it's scaled down and it's not full screen, you can still feel and you can still tell. It gets on your nerves. These are all very little nitpicks. I'm very aware of that. And this game is a good game. And especially in the HD 1.5 plus 2.5 remix package, it's not the best game in there. But if it is only for some other games in there, you should get this package anyway. Kingdom Hearts 1, it is worth playing. It's by far not the best game, and I would advise you to just play the game through to the story and then stop playing. Maybe do some optional bosses, but not even that maybe, because go on to Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 2 is way better a game in every single aspect, and we'll get to that soon, hopefully. But for now, in retrospect, Kingdom Hearts 1 is a decent game and worth playing for sure. Thank you so much for watching this in retrospect. So until the next time, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you have enjoyed this video, which hopefully you have, because I have put in a lot of work on this one. On the screen at this moment, you see a subscription button and 2 other video thumbnails if you want to watch any of those. Until the next time, I'll see you all later. Bye.